So, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Liam Griffin, and I'm a content creator here on the Shopify Partners education team. I'm so excited to be here today with Emma Palm from Pixel Union, and we'll be talking about how empathy can inform your business approach and help build strong client relationships. Emma has been working with Pixel Union for the past 4 years, helping to provide Shopify merchants with top-class themes, and last year she spoke as part of a day with Shopify in Vancouver. So, I'm going to hand you over to Emma now, who's going to let you all know about how getting rejected from the Shopify theme store inspired their best work.
All right. Thanks for the introduction, Liam. It's an honor to be asked to present here. I really appreciate the opportunity. As Liam mentioned, I'm speaking on behalf of Pixel Union, and I will give you a bit of background to start with. We were founded in 2009 as a division of MetaLab, so design is in our DNA. The road to here actually started with Tumblr themes. Success on that platform led to experiments on others as we dabbled with WordPress and Ghost, and learned a ton of lessons before going all in with e-commerce. Our first Shopify theme launched in 2011. Since then, we've expanded our catalog to include some of the platform's most popular and best-loved themes: Atlantic, Grid, Launch, and most recently, Handy and Empire. Over the last 6 years, our work has expanded to include app development and client services work as well. Each of these divisions has grown up alongside Shopify's platform and success, and we are honored to be their first 360-degree partner. I'll be speaking to you today from my perspective as product manager, a role that continues to grow and define itself alongside our catalog. I'm going to tell you a story about one of our lowest and most uncertain moments as a product team. From this low, we've gleaned 3 major lessons which have become integral to the way we build themes. I want to share those with you, and I want to share them right off the top so that they frame the way you hear the story. This afternoon, I'll try to convince you that for the sake of better product, it is imperative that you first be an active partner. You need to play an active role in your relationship with Shopify. Be accountable as well as hold them to account. Make yourself instrumental in the evolution of the platform. Second, do your homework. Resources spent on research, market analysis, and user feedback are never misspent. Anyone can develop a beautiful theme or app, but developing one that actually solves the merchant's problems takes intelligence and creativity. Put yourself in their shoes. Whether it's the merchant you're building a product for or the platform itself, the more you can think like your partners and clients, the more you'll start to predict their needs and motives and respond appropriately. That sounds easy, but it isn't. It takes empathy, insight, and good relationships. Pixel Union enjoyed early success in the Shopify theme store with flexible, all-purpose themes like Atlantic and Editions. Themes that promise to serve every industry and scale with a merchant's business as it grew, good for everything from small catalogs to huge inventories. We were comfortable and proud of ourselves, and what we were doing was obviously working, so it made sense to do more of the same. Our plan for the next product in the collection was simple. We wanted to focus on stylistic elements, interactions, and visual designs that would set it apart. That's the easy part for us. All our product up until this point had been design first. We also thought we'd get a bit ambitious with the settings and customization options we were offering, make the theme a bit more extensible so merchants could do more with it. Finally, we wanted to push theme functionality as far as we could so it would stand out within the marketplace. Sections weren't a thing yet, but we introduced a reorderable homepage, alternate page templates, and a huge number of highly detailed customizations from spacing to colors and layout. It was pretty straightforward as far as product strategies go. Offer merchants value by building a theme that could scale with their businesses and shapeshift to serve multiple use cases across diverse industries. We felt confident that we'd proven this product strategy, and we figured we couldn't lose. So, heads full of assumptions and what we thought was a fail-proof record, we pushed forward, designing, redesigning, redesigning, and finally developing Prosper. We licensed content and set up demo shops. We put together a quick presentation and polished our presets. And when we were finally happy, not easy for us, developing a Pixel Union theme is neither a short nor a painless process, we sent our contact an email. What we expected was a congratulatory high five, a minimal review, and prompt publication in the theme store. After all, it was a great theme, beautiful, functional. They'd have to be crazy not to publish it. Only they didn't. We got rejected. The theme was too unfocused. It had too many settings. It was trying to do too much for too many different merchant types rather than solving a specific problem. These were all valid points in hindsight, but at the time it was a first and it came as a huge blow. We had poured hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars into a product we believed in, counting on its acceptance and a quick return. Suddenly, we had nothing to show for it. But, well, it may not have felt like it at the time, getting rejected was the best thing that could have happened to us. What followed, once we overcame the feelings of sadness, frustration, loneliness, and remorse, was a long overdue look at our theme development process, from concept to submission to product maintenance. And what we found was that pretty much everything needed to change. From where we're standing now, it's easy to see where Prosper went wrong. For a start, by the time we started in on design, the Shopify team was already undergoing a shift of their own, moving towards more purpose-built themes targeting specific merchant segments. That's something that gave us all pause for a while, but on further reflection, it made a ton of sense. The marketplace was becoming more saturated, so of course, themes needed to get more niche and more opinionated. On top of that, the partner ecosystem itself was also getting more saturated. When we started, there were only 4 developers, including us. By now, there were over 10. It no longer made sense to have all these designers and developers working towards the same goal of highly customizable, scalable themes. The landscape was changing. The days of highly generic themes loaded with customizable settings were coming to a close, and a new era of deliberate, purpose-built products was starting up. That meant the thousands of merchants who hadn't been getting their specific needs met by the theme marketplace finally would. But it also meant theme developers like us needed to start building smarter if we were going to launch new products. Recognizing these changes in the Shopify landscape and making a conscious decision to rise and meet them head-on turned out to be a coming-of-age story for us as a company. We'd always viewed ourselves as best in class when it came to products. We took a lot of pride in that and even built the company culture around this idea of best or nothing when it came to our work. And yet, in many ways, we were approaching the market with a pretty unsophisticated way of doing things. We were substituting gut instinct, which is great, but not enough in and of itself, for things like market research, competitive analysis, and user feedback. Prosper's rejection put all that in stark relief for us. It forced us to kick some entitled teenage habits, move out of our parents' house, and become the makers of our own destiny. Once we'd regrouped as a team, it became pretty clear that a bunch of stuff needed to change. We boiled it down to 3 areas to make it easier. First, our partnership. How we engage with Shopify as both the platform we serve and as our partner in this great big e-commerce enterprise we're all a part of. Next, our process. How we approach product development, the processes and tactics and thinking that goes into the decisions we make as we develop a new theme. Finally, our principles, what frameworks we use to work through problems and get to real-life workable solutions, and of course, marketable solutions. Using that as a starting point, we began to dig deeper, and we came away with a set of guidelines that now inform our entire approach to product. We're working on formalizing these somehow so they become a bit more of a mission statement for the team, but for now, here's the gist. Up until Prosper's rejection, we'd been a pretty passive partner with Shopify. We talked, we were friends, but all of our conversations were about the way things are, rather than looking forward to the way things could or should be. So we decided to change that. We made a point of being a more active stakeholder, suggesting new approaches and ideas proactively based on our experiences and learning, rather than just waiting to see what happened. Our stumbling blocks and missteps became the seeds for a new approach to themes in general, and our partnership in particular. Creative briefs, multi-step submission processes, increased transparency between Shopify's team and ours, all that came out of it and now works to hold us both more accountable to a common vision. Understanding and helping to define that common vision in the form of a coherent, useful theme and the theme marketplace as a whole has proven to be the steepest and most exciting learning curve in my role as product manager. The marketplace has become fiercely competitive. The bar for theme submissions is now incredibly high, and that would be incredibly frustrating if we didn't understand why it's happening. But because we've been an active partner, we do understand and we totally get it. That doesn't make the work easy or the competition any less fierce. Over the last year, we've seen many of the primary use cases addressed, from crowdfunding to localization, and that means it'll be even harder to find the next fit. What it does do is help us develop a strategy that can adapt to the changing landscape and helps us stay ahead of the curve because we're right there helping to shape it. The next area we looked at was our process, how we approach theme development from conception to launch. This was about a lot more than just development timelines and project management. We wanted to find what we were missing, what information and insight we were leaving behind that was preventing us from building industry-leading themes. The outcome was a redefined process that everyone on the team could get behind. Much of it seemed familiar, and I'm not going to say any of it is particularly revolutionary, but defining it helped us crystallize the steps and ingrain them in our workflow. So here's a quick rundown of how we build a theme. Step 1, research. In the first phase of a project, I cast my net wide. Forums, Facebook groups, e-commerce reports, theme receipts, Shopify press, competitor platforms, our support inbox. This variety of sources feeds each new product idea. This is a stage of asking, listening, gathering. It's a process of turning anecdotes into actionable data. Then I write a creative brief. In essence, a creative brief is our articulation of a problem, proof of merchant impact, and proposed solution. As a product manager, the brunt of problem articulation falls on me, while outlining the solution is a wholehearted team effort. Engaging the expertise of all disciplines, QA, support, design, and development, is paramount here, and we've gotten much better at making sure all of our internal stakeholders are at the table. As a product goes through design and development, my role is to hold it accountable to the creative brief, refocusing our efforts through the lens of the problem and intended solution over and over again. Design and development don't happen in isolation from each other. We check in frequently across disciplines, as our best solutions are a marriage of both ideals, good looks and seamless functionality. Next is quality assurance. The fresh eyes of a dedicated QA team help us to make sure we've got it right. They run each of our themes through rigorous tests to ensure that they're functioning as expected across every device and browser type, and accommodating edge case scenarios when it comes to merchant content. Merchandising is closely linked to the earliest phases. Because we spent so much time identifying who this product is for, we are well equipped to cater to them through our demo content choices and marketing language. We want the intended audience to see themselves, or rather an aspirational version of themselves, in our products. It's critical that our content teams communicate value and differentiate a new product from the rest of our catalog and the theme store at large. Publication is a shiny, happy moment, but we can't get too comfortable because next comes feedback and iteration. There's always room for improvement, and our customers are quick to tell us so. Fine-tuning our products to better serve the people using them is a critical part of product stewardship and the key to maintaining relevance in the marketplace. If you look at our product roadmap for 2018, we've dedicated the bulk of our resources to this work, giving new love to old products, incorporating merchant feedback, and implementing catalog-wide best practices that keep pace with this extremely active industry. Part of this is platform-driven. We see Shopify taking a similar approach, raising the bar not only for new product, but mandating that existing product keep up. The updates they've laid out for us are intensive, from sections parity to accessibility and smart payment buttons. But we're on board and ready to put our heads down and do that work because it echoes the merchant needs and pain points that come through our support inbox every day. As a company, we have a slew of ideas and ideals that we lean on and try to build into our work. Innovation, creativity, communication, flexibility, fun. But if you ask me to name our defining principle, it has to be empathy. And I know that sounds kind of mushy, but hear me out. To us, all the creativity and talent and productivity in the world is a waste if you don't know who you're doing it for and who you're doing it with and what each of those stakeholders cares about and needs. So who are we doing it for? Our customer, the Shopify merchant. The front line for this is our merchant success team. They're the ones interacting with our customers every day, who hear firsthand what's working and what's not from the people who actually use our products. That these messages are seen and heard by the rest of our company, from design to development to management, is crucial. And that means equipping our success team with the tools they need to do their job well. Things like a dedicated support site with comprehensive theme-specific documentation, an email-based support system that lets them sort, track, and own conversations, and a system that allows us to track and prioritize individual user requests and feed them directly to the product team so they can inform product development. As a product manager, reviewing this data has helped me understand that while some features look great in design and are conceptually sound, they just aren't useful to merchants in the ways we've intended. About a month after Empire launched, we released a small update that included more flexible layout options within the header. We introduced sliders to give merchants greater control over the max width and height of their logos. These weren't issues I was expecting to crop up when we released Empire. I felt totally confident with the design decisions we'd made within the header, but larger logo please or some variation of this request popped up in our support inbox with determined frequency. Because we had the tools in place to quantify the growing customer impact surrounding this issue, prioritizing a solution was an easy decision to make. Those same tools also allowed us to reach out to the affected customers and let them know that we had acted on their enhancement request, empowering both the customer and our support team as active stakeholders in product development. With these systems in place, we've set ourselves up to thoughtfully maintain and expand a living product catalog. And who are we doing it with? Our partner, Shopify. The work that Shopify does as a company is huge. Their ecosystem is mind-bogglingly expansive, from Plus partners and clients to app developers, theme partners, and in-house product teams. The number of stakeholders at that table is massive. It's hard to wrap your head around, but the point is you have to. Stepping back to remind myself of the broader context for our work has become a huge factor when it comes to developing a strategy for our themes. Not only does a theme have to succeed on its own merits as a complete and useful package, it also has to make sense within the larger ecosystem. It has to play well with apps. It has to offer value beyond the scope of free themes and differentiate itself from other premium offerings. It should make sense to merchants setting up their first online shop, and it should be an attractive foundation for an agency's next client project. Now zoom out and consider the fact that Shopify is doing the same thing on a much broader, much more noisy level. Where do they see the theme store in 6 months, a year, beyond that? Which merchant pain points are worthy inspiration for a new theme, and which are better tackled by apps? What is the value in a suite of free themes made in-house, and how can we as a partner complement that? And finally, and perhaps most importantly, who are their stakeholders, and what are they struggling with when it comes to making decisions about the platform? And how can my understanding of that help us both get to where we want to go? A lot of the time, the questions are easier to ask than the answers are to find. But the point is, by considering where our partner is coming from, what they're up against, and who they're dealing with, we become part of the conversation. And by being a voice at the table, sharing our experience, and speaking up on behalf of our customers, we can help shape the evolution of this ecosystem. One of our greatest learnings has been the realization that our targets will always be moving. The e-commerce landscape shifts and expands constantly. In the grand scope of things, these are still early days. We need to be agile and open to that change. We need to be responsive to the shifting needs of merchants, and we need to be aligned with Shopify in the way that we respond to those needs. Or in other words, we need to be an active partner, do our homework, and put ourselves in their shoes. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma, for this presentation. We're just going to take a minute or two break, so please feel free to pop your questions into the question box on the control panel, and we'll be back in a minute or two just to look at a few of these questions. Thank you. Hi guys, so I'm going to start asking some of the questions which are coming into our question box, so please do keep submitting some questions. The first question I have here is from Chris. Chris is wondering, Emma, what sort of time period does it take for your team to go from idea to production to submission and finally to release?
Good question. And I think that changes a lot depending on what other projects we have on the go or what kind of updates we're working on that are platform mandated in that moment. I think we were always collecting ideas around new product. And then as we look forward and plan our roadmap, we are able to dedicate resources to those projects and start fleshing out more in-depth research and creative briefs. In general, I'd say that from creative brief to product launch, we're looking at anywhere from 4 to even 8 months, depending on how often that project gets interrupted or not.
Well, thanks, Emma. I have another question here from Eugene. Similarly enough, but maybe more related to just the development of themes. Eugene's asking, how long does it take to create a new theme?
In our perfect world, I think that that theme development would be 10 to 12 weeks of solid work. That varies a lot depending on the feature set in the theme. If we're trying to incorporate an innovative feature user flow that we've never tried before, the experimentation and sort of iteration on that can take longer. Also, like I guess I tried to speak to in our process that development isn't happening in a vacuum. So we're looping other disciplines into that process all the way throughout. As a product is developed, we will meet weekly to look at the components that are in progress or complete, and get design take on that, get product management take on that, make sure that we're checking our assumptions all along the way, that not only is it looking good and functioning well, but the settings that we've set up in for the merchant within the theme editor makes sense, and that holistically we're moving in the right direction, filtering things through that creative brief.
Well, that's very interesting to see those insights, Emma. Chris has a question here as well. How do you choose your theme type or theme niche?
Good question. It's a combination of things. I lean really heavily on our merchant success team for a lot of insight into this area. We'll run into merchants who are trying to use existing product to do things that it's just not quite built to do, but they find themselves within a niche that is underserved in the current marketplace. And as we collect their stories and pain points, ideas for new product definitely start to take shape. Another part of it is industry research. So looking at trends within e-commerce in general, whether those are niche product types or a certain type of business model, like drop shipping, or of course evolving e-commerce trends, like mobile commerce was a huge one for us. And Handy was our first mobile first theme. So being able to sort of stay on top of what's happening in the industry and identify opportunities to turn that experience or that hunger for functionality into a theme is really exciting for us.
That's really interesting. I've got another good question here from Brendan. When you are designing themes, Do you speak, when you're researching the designing of themes, do you speak directly with merchants?
Definitely. Some of those are our own merchants, so folks who are using either our themes or our apps. A lot of insight also comes through our agency team. So we're lucky at Pixel Union to have these sort of three pillars of the business and different types of information funneling in from all of those. But as our agency is talking with new clients about prospective projects, we're often able to see those pain points like mirrored in a larger pool of merchants. Can you ask me a question one more time, Liam?
Yeah, so that question was just about, it was looking at, do you talk directly with merchants when you are designing themes?
Oh yeah, totally. And I guess one thing that I would add to that is that a lot of the folks on our team are merchants themselves, or they're helping friends out who are starting businesses. So it feels like we're all just like very immersed and surrounded by merchants and merchant experience all the time, which I think is really, really valuable and important.
Yeah, I would totally agree there, Emma. I think it's really close to maintain those close relationships with merchants, or in any industry. The end user, the customer, should really be, you can rely on them to inform your future developments. I've got another question here from Nick, and we might just take one or two more before finishing up. But Nick is asking, can you give an example of where customer feedback has impacted on how you've designed themes?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned briefly in the presentation this sort of small fast follow update that we applied to Empire. We had a lot of merchants emailing in, wanting a larger logo size or slight variations within the header. We spun that out really quick, but all along with Empire, we had this version 2 planned as a fast follow. And Empire was an exciting project for us because it was the first time that we had really allocated resources in that way, that we had built up to this sort of initial product launch, but then known from the beginning that work on Empire wouldn't stop then, that we had an expanded feature set that we wanted to showcase in it, and we had set aside resources to make that happen after the fact. So not only did we have these ideas of new sections and features that we wanted to introduce, but we were also able to pay really close attention to the emails coming in through our success team from merchants who either had bought the theme and were working on customizing it, or who were previewing it and maybe not seeing the functionality that they wanted to be there. One example would be sort of in our observation of Empire in the wild, we noticed a lot of customizations happening, again, within the header, folks wanting to set up small graphics or icons calling out things like free shipping or store hours and contact information. And we wanted to make that really easy for them, and we wanted to give them a solution, obviously, that would be as responsive as the rest of the theme, that would look good, feel good, make sense, both on mobile and desktop. So Empire version 2 includes a highlights banner section that allows for all of those things. And that wasn't something that we had necessarily anticipated or designed early on, but it was totally merchant driven, and just like seeing the types of shops that were making use of the theme and the ways that they were trying to stretch it to serve them exactly the way that they wanted.
Cool. I have maybe one of our last questions here. How many options or features would usually be be in a good theme? And that's for
That's
both
an
of you.
interesting question, and also kind of timely. So one of the projects that we're working on right now is sections parity for our Shopify catalog. And that's a platform-wide initiative. So, so Shopify's themes team has identified a minimum number of sections that will be required in all themes moving forward. And we're retroactively filling any gaps that are in our existing catalog, and obviously holding that in mind as we move forward. But I think that not only were we realizing that there's sort of this merchant expectation of just like foundational functionality, the platform was realizing the same thing and reached a similar conclusion. So I think within that, the sections parity list, there are 8 or 10 minimum sections. Obviously, like, we're always trying to strike a balance between offering flexibility on top of that, like wanting themes to, you know, be employed differently on all kinds of different shops and look unique and bespoke in each situation. That all requires settings and options within each section. But then we're trying to balance that with the merchant experience of setting up a theme. We know that can be intimidating and very labor intensive. And so anything we can do to maintain consistency in the way that those settings are structured and make good decisions around what we're opinionating. Like, sometimes we hold back settings because, you know, we want to help merchants make good design decisions, and allowing them to upload a custom image here isn't, you know, their best option. A lot of that is in partnership with Shopify as well, who definitely pays close attention to those structures and precedents as well.
Yeah, no, that's all really great information, and it's lovely to hear the insights from sort of behind the curtain, if you will, of how teams get developed, and yeah, especially, you know, in terms of you know, how many features, how many sections are going into all of the different places. So I think that's about all we have time for at the moment. But thanks again, Emma. It's been really great having you here as part of the partner webinar session. And I think that there was a lot of really useful information that you passed on to our partner community here. And thanks again as well to all the attendees that showed up today. We do have our next webinar. So our next upcoming webinar will be on March 15th with Scott Winkle, and it'll be on creating accessible React apps. So this will be running through all the ways to make sure that the React apps that you're building have accessibility built into it. So just look out for the upcoming announcement and emails so you're able to register for this webinar. But again, thanks again, Emma, for joining and presenting, and wish you all the success in the future with with your new team designs. And we're really looking forward to seeing what work that you come out with next. And really interesting to see exactly how feedback from your customers and really putting yourself in your customer's shoes has informed how you guys are working.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay, and to all our attendees as well, bye for now, but keep tuned for more webinars in the future. Thank you and goodbye.